Welcome, Arsene. Thank you for joining us, and I can't tell you how excited I am genuinely about this opportunity. First question, how, if at all, has COVID changed football?
It has changed a lot, football. First of all, I think all the spectacular pictures that we like to see on the football pitch have disappeared. You know, a football pitch empty is of course not the same atmosphere. And when you're a kid, you dream to play in front of a full stadium. And suddenly you gain a little bit like with nobody in the stands. And it took us time to accept it, but at the end, I think it was well filmed as well, but you don't see too much, but the stands are empty. And overall, it has financial repercussions that are, of course, huge. And we have as well no time scale when we can we come back to normal games. So it creates anxiety, I would say, on future for the managers.
What are those financial repercussions? How deep do they run?
Well, I would say that the turnover was 45 billion per year in the world, and we lose 15 to 20. I would say 20 billion. So we are 20 billion short, and this 20 billion can only go back or by deferred payment or by reducing the wages of the players. I would say it questions football deeper when you think it does, you know, because I am convinced that in the future the variable of wages has to be much bigger than it is now, and that you have to put uncertainties into the contract, and that means that we cannot guarantee as much anymore in the salaries than we did until now, and that it has to be linked with sanitary reasons, performance reasons, presence reasons, but it questions football deeply. And in fact, I believe as well we have to reorganize completely the calendar. And at FIFA, with Infantino, we try to make a meeting with all the stakeholders of the game to reorganize completely the calendar, the year calendar, because you have to plan in the future that you will maybe have to travel less.
Can we park that and come back to it? I'm interested in what you said about players' wages. This is as good as it gets then. It won't get any better than this.
It won't
and
get
wages
any better,
are going
Richard.
to have to be cut. Capped is what you're saying.
Capped, I don't think so. Cut, certainly. Capped, for me, is an encouragement to cheat, you know, and that could advantage. We are today, we live in an era of multi-billion owners, international owners who can, of course, have finances all over the world. So I would say that you would leave the freedom to people to manage, of course, correctly their club, but as well to spend the money like they want to spend it. But you have to control the quality of their management. Overall, I would say you will always have exceptions, like now Paris Saint-Germain, they will want to keep Neymar, they will want to keep Mbappé. With a capped salary, that will not be possible.
So what you're saying about a capped salary, if I read you correctly, is that we will pay you this, X, but we'll give you this.
That's the danger, you know. The danger is that you have to find a good balance between control and freedom. And I think what you could do is that limit the percentage of wages compared to the turnover. For example, that only 60% or 70% of the wages can only be 60 or 70% of total turnover in each club. That gives you a guarantee that the club can create some fund in case of urgency.
I think you'll get a lot of support for that view amongst those that make the decisions, but How do you persuade the players that the bubble has burst?
I think that's an illusion, you know, because the players will never be convinced that you cannot give them more money, and I think rightly so. When I always, you fight as well that you get your players are well paid, but we have to be realistic. You can only spend the money you have, and in the future, you will have to plan certainly that what was guaranteed before will more down to variable, and the variable might to be linked with sanitary reasons.
You say be realistic. You can only spend what you have, but for 20 years, football hasn't been realistic. It's been spending what it doesn't have. And I don't think that anyone could have predicted COVID, but I think we all knew that at some point things were going to change dramatically. How was football allowed to be, how were decision makers allowed to be so reckless in that sense?
Well, because of competition and the desire to win. And as well, I would say you had two big periods with financial investments. The first one was without financial fair play control, and that was when Chelsea, Man City came in. And now, with a financial fair play control, where your investment capacities are a bit more controlled and tested. In the first period, the clubs could do what they wanted, you know. And now, I think it's a bit more difficult to invest money. But overall, I would say that the control of the management has been installed and is going quite well. You do not want as well, football player is a job where is a world sport today, creates a lot of interest, you know, and the income from the media has gone bigger and bigger.
But it's not going to get any bigger now. It's only going to get smaller.
The domestic rights are at the top. They will go down. The international rights, I'm not sure they will not go up, you know. And there's still some room for improvement on the international rights. But the basic problem you will have is, and you see that now, the tensions turning up, is how you share this money, you know. The big clubs will want to say, look, the interest from the media is because of us.
Inevitably, yes.
So we do not want to share with the smaller clubs as we did before. We want the bigger part of the money. And that creates tension inside the league, you know. And that's why the Super League has turned up. That's why the modification of Champions League formula has turned up.
On the subject of being reckless, I read a line this past weekend from Juan Laporte, former president of Barcelona, who's pitching to take that same job again. He talks about Barcelona these days being the $3 billion club, $1 billion in revenue, $1 billion in expenses, and $1 billion in debt. That's just unsustainable, isn't it?
It's unsustainable, yes. Apart from the fact that these clubs are so big that even politics cannot let them down, you know. And
what are you saying, that they are protected by nation states?
I think so. Do you see Real Madrid or Barcelona going under tomorrow?
No.
Barcelona certainly no, because they represent Catalonia. And every player who was born in Catalonia dreams to play for Barcelona. So, but still, well, you are right, it's unacceptable that clubs have that kind of deficit, you know. It's not acceptable, and I think even in the future, the citizens will revolt against us, because we live in a privileged world. And I was criticized for spending only the money I had. But because success is so important to people, they don't mind do you bankrupt the club or not, they just want the big players.
But that was my next point. If you had spent beyond the money you had, then there would not be Arsenal Football Club today, would there? And
no,
that's not a dramatic statement. That's a fact.
Or they would be in a much poorer shape financially, you know. And I would say that I managed always the club like it was my club. And even worse, you know. So I've always thought that's the way. There's only one way to manage a football club, is that you care really about everything inside, and that you leave the club in a position where people after you can go on.
How hurt were you by the criticism that came during the last 5 years of your tenure?
Well, of course, I'm like everybody. I like to think I prefer to be loved than to be hated. But
that's both of us, but I understand where you're coming from.
but there's something bigger than that, Richard, is that you want to do what is right, you know. And
do you think you got it right? Do you think the timing of your departure was correct?
I don't know, but I just think in 2016 I left. In 2016 we were second in the league, you know. We were beaten by Leicester, but you see now Leicester is still again there in the top four, and they had a fantastic football team, and they were in front of everybody else as well.
So in some ways, do you feel vindicated? I'm not going to say you get pleasure, because that would be wrong. You're an Arsenal fan, but do you feel vindicated by what you were doing?
No, look, it's quite simple. I left. When I arrived, I built a training ground. We bought a training ground, a land, I built a training ground. Whole Europe, that was 99, came to watch our training ground, to build new training grounds, because it was a permanent visit at our training ground. And of course, after people build, they were even bigger and better, yes. And what is normal. And we built a stadium because it cost us over £400 million, and we had to pay it back. So despite that, I think we remained 20 consecutive years in the top four in the Champions League. We finished 3 times first, 5 times second, 6 times third, 6 times fourth, you know. And I wish that in the next 20 years, Arsenal finished 20 consecutive years in the Champions League and in the top four. And after, of course, people get used to it and they want always more, what I accept. But I think as well, people have really worked in football. No, but the most difficult thing is consistency. Consistency with the quality. And when you have the exceptional players, they win you the championships, you know. But to be consistent, for me, is the most difficult thing. We see it now.
Let's go back to reorganising the calendar. How?
How? By maybe thinking the other way around. Start from 4 weeks holiday and go backwards.
When do we take the 4 weeks holiday?
Sorry?
When do we take the 4 weeks holiday?
During the break in the summer.
In the summer?
Yeah.
So you're working to a European calendar?
Yes.
The rest of the world will have to march to that tune?
The rest of the world has to adjust, or the ideal solution is that everybody plays in a calendar year. But that looks at the moment, as I feel the forces inside the game, a hurdle that is too big to overcome. Because in Europe, you cannot say tomorrow we start the championship in March and we finish in November, because it was a good opportunity with the World Cup in November, you know, but it's not the case, so that will not happen. But you need 4 weeks holiday, and after that, maybe you need to go down to 18 clubs everywhere.
So the dream was build a new calendar around Qatar 2022. Start domestic European football in March.
Yes.
And end in November.
Yeah.
Did that get a warm hearing anywhere by anybody?
No, no. We start just the debate, but I think we have a worldwide consultation starting in March. It's my dream, you know. It's not a dream that I share with many people at the moment, but I just think. I have the advantage for having worked in Japan. We played in March from November until November, and it was perfect, you know. And we would not have any more. He won the championship 2018-19. No, it was in 18, in 19, in 20. Make things more simple. Let's not forget that this summer break comes from the way where people were not professional. It's over 100 years ago.
Of course.
So today the players don't go on holiday during the season, you know. So I'm convinced that to harmonize the world calendar, somebody has to give in, or it's Europe or the rest of the world, you know. And it would be easier to have a harmonized calendar and to organize world football in a much better way. So the second problem that we have, if you look at world football, there is a gulf between Europe and the rest of the world, you know. And to get the more national teams going to the World Cup will help to develop football in the smaller countries, because they have more opportunities to go to play at the world level. And maybe the Club World Cup can help as well to generate more money to organize the championships. But then again, you have to be careful that it's not going to the big clubs, and that part of the money that it could generate goes as well to the structural improvement inside the smaller countries.
So we've got 4 weeks off, which is, let's say, July. We report back on August the 1st for a pre-season, presumably.
Yes.
When do we start playing again? September?
Well, you need 4 weeks preparation.
So September.
Yes. But what I want to say, Richard, 4 weeks compulsory for every player doesn't mean, for example, if you go to the World Cup or to a European Championship for us, you have to give 4 weeks to the day the players go out, because only 2 teams go to the final.
Yes.
So that means you have 22 teams who go home earlier, you know. So it is very difficult, because if you make it compulsory from a day of the final, some players will have 7 weeks.
Yes. Yes, true.
You know, so you have to, that's why it's so complex as well. But you need, I believe it's needed with the physical resources that the players need today. It's important that you have 4 weeks holiday. And until now, we organized always competition, added competitions, and in the end we said, okay, let's give holidays to players. Yes, but we start tomorrow. We have sometimes the World Cup final in July, and the teams start to play again championship beginning of August, you know. How can you give them 4 weeks holiday? They cannot prepare, they cannot rest, they cannot prepare. Ideally, you know, for all the little wounds you get, the knocks, you would need 6 weeks.
If we took out all the breaks for international football during a domestic season, could we not truncate that and play the internationals in a fortnight, 3 weeks at the end of the season?
Way. I would say that's one of the solutions we will discuss, is to compact the qualifiers. But instead of going away September, October, November, March, June, we regroup the qualifiers or in 1 month or in 2 quadruples in October and in February. But at least the players can dedicate their time to the club from March until June, you know. And we would gain 4 dates. The ideal solution would be to regroup the qualifiers in 1 month. Let's say in October you qualify, and the rest of the season you play for your club, and at the end of the season you play the national team championships. But that will be a complete evolution, if not revolution.
Well, I was going to say to you, you know why it won't happen, don't you? Because it makes too much sense. So somebody will have a problem with that. We sat in this very same studio 2 days ago talking about Gérard Houllier, very good friend of yours, who you said was often the motivating factor in keeping the relationship as warm as it was, because you were a bad loser.
Yes.
So a lot of what we saw actually was just drama above the surface. Was that the case with Mourinho and Ferguson, or not? Did you have a dislike of either one?
No,
or both?
there was tensions there most of the time, because for statements, or sometimes with Ferguson was more because it was head to head, you know. But there was some periods where it was very tense. But overall, time heals, you know, time
tense.
heals.
Is tense another word for dislike? Was it a genuine dislike?
Yeah, it's more when you're in a competition, it's you or him, you know. And as a club, it's Arsenal or Man United. So, of course, we had as well some tense games. You remember me standing in a stand, or we lost the 50.
Wonderful.
We lost
and you knew where you were going, didn't you? You knew that moment was there for you to make the most of.
We lost the 50th game at Man United in a very controversial situation. And of course, that the Pizzagate helped as well, you know. It's all kind of things where that created some bad feelings, but time helps, you know, to heal it. And when you meet each other again, and you respect, at the end of the day, you respect your opponents. I think if we, as managers, we do not respect our opponents, how can it happen with the players?
But that was more born of competition. With Mourinho, did it get personal?
At some stage, yes, but it's as well, I never gave it too much importance, you know, because I think at the end of the day, I always, I think I could take a bigger distance with that and focused on my club and do what I thought was right for my club. And you have good periods, we have less good periods, and every manager goes through that. You know, if some of us had found the magic wand to win every single game, we would know about it. We all experience win and defeat, and that's part of it. And still, it's all, when you think back at the teams where you won with, you always realize that you had exceptional players and very intelligent players.
What qualifies an individual to become a super coach?
I would say, first of all, to be true to himself and reflect the personality of a team, reflects the personality of the players. So you must first have a personality. And as well, I would say you must have a clear idea of what you want to do and how you want to play. Be capable to transform that into concrete and clear way to do it for the team. And as well, be capable to obtain it from the team. So I would say, basically, to make it as simple, if your team becomes their team, you have won the battle, you know. And that's, I would say, the great managers have that capacity to convince, to persuade. And what has changed, I would say, when I arrived in England, you managed downwards. Today, I would say, the manager spends much time to manage upwards, you know, to convince the board, to convince the investors, to convince the media that he has a capacity to do his job, and he spends much less time managing downwards, because that is done by his assistant. And the manager, of course, manager's credibility is less linked with the players today than it was 20 years ago. It's more linked with managing well upwards. They spend more time with the media, they spend more time with people who are the owners of a club.
Does a super coach have to have won something? And the reason I ask that is that Pochettino has probably elevated himself into that bracket by taking Paris, but he hasn't won anything.
Not yet. He will win something this year, maybe. And I would say at some stage, for your own belief, it is important, you know. And so overall, I would say that your reputation comes from the credibility you have with your players, but as well from the fact that you can win championships or cups. That's part of it.
David Moyes is having a wonderful season with West Ham, but he knows the misery of being sacked by Manchester United spectacularly, by being relegated with Sunderland. But all of a sudden, he's popular again. The analogy you talk about of managing up, he had to manage down when he took Sunderland, literally. Could Guardiola, could you take your philosophy and have success at Barnsley?
Well, it depends what you call success at Barnsley. You know, I would say that success for me, if you take the ideal manager, is the manager could take the maximum out of a potential of a team. You know, so that means if we had all the same money at the start of the season, and all us had to buy 20 players, and now start to play, you could compare the managers. You cannot compare when you start, of course, today Man United or City or Arsenal with a manager who starts at Barnsley. So first you have to, where we speak about David Moyes, today, why is he loved today? Because nobody expected West Ham, and they are in the top 4 after 25 games. So you would think he has taken the maximum out of the potential of a team, or very close to the maximum potential of a team. You know, that's what people rate.
So we call him, well, can we call him a super coach on that basis?
Yes, I would say maybe at Sunderland he has done the same job, but he didn't get the recognition because the maximum of a potential of a team was so low. You know?
So has Guardiola been privileged to have coached in places that he has?
Guardiola has been privileged to start at Barcelona, but as well you have to say that he has shown in these places that he has a capacity to manage these clubs, you know, so you have to give him credit for having shown that he had the level to be where he is, and even strengthened his position. Today he's a worldwide recognized manager, and I must say you respect him as well, because he has his ideas and stick with his ideas. That's what I told you before. He has a way to behave, and a way that reflects his personality.
Has he slightly adjusted his belief? I read an article recently by Louis van Gaal saying that at one time he was reckless, to use what Louis said. Both fullbacks would be advanced, exposing centre-backs. Now it's only one. He's more careful. And Manchester City, not by accident, have one of the best defensive records in Europe now. That's never been the case for a Guardiola side, has it?
No, because I would say he has adjusted. He has become more realistic, and maybe as well gone back to basics, win the ball back quickly, take less, as you said, gamble at the back, and as well I would say he has bought good centre backs. You know, now for a long time Man City has looked for top centre backs. They haven't found. I think this season they've made a very good buy with Ruben Diaz.
All of the things that you were accused of not doing at Arsenal, ironically.
No, I would say, you know, that you do not always find the quality of defenders that you want, because there's not many on the market. And if you look at how much time it has taken City to find replacements for Company, or how many centre backs from the Mangala, or they bought many players, you know, in this position, and you do not always find the right quality. It's not easy today to find good centre backs.
Maddison, Grealish, or Foden?
Play them all together.
No, you can't. You can only have one.
I would say Grealish is the most mature today, but because he has that personality, he can dribble, he can go slow, quick. He has a personality to take people on, good vision for the final ball, and overall, you know, I was a bit disappointed by him for 1-2 years, but he came back strong in the last 2 years. He was a bit lost. When he started, I found him outstanding with Villa. Because that year we played him in a cup final.
Yes.
They knocked Liverpool out in the semi-final, and I thought he was absolutely outstanding. And after, he disappeared. But in the last 2 years he came back, and what he's done this year is top. Foden is on a very good way. I think he's a bit more direct than Grealish, but he scores more goals.
And Maddison?
Maddison is in between, is a number 10. I would say he looks very promising. He has all the attributes. Maybe you have to think how can you play them together, you know. And at the moment, I believe he has a personality as well. He looks to have a strong personality. It's difficult to rule one out, but you know, Richard, with the studies we made, we found out that at 23, at the age of 23, from 17 to 20, you need to take a group of players, talented players, Maddison, Grealish, Foden, you put them all together, take 15 players. At the age of 20, there's a little separation, a few move away, and you do not always guess who it is, you know. And then, at the age of 23, there's another separation from a few number who moves up to the top level. And this is not always predictable unless you know the quality of their motivation and the intensity of their assessment of their performance, you know. Because after that, the guys who continue to move on have that internal desire to get the best out of them, you know.
Is quality of motivation, are you saying attitude? Attitude.
Attitude, yeah, that's what you call attitude. It's what makes the good player to a great player. That starts at 22, 23, and where you consistency. At 23, a football player has learned his job. He has not anymore one good game and one poor game. He becomes a bit stable. But a few of them move then higher up and become great players. And that's the future of a Maddison, of a Grealish and the Foden is.
So really we shouldn't be expecting to see top players mature now until they're 23?
Yes, I think the separation comes at 23, you know.
How then did you know that Fabregas was going to be as good as he became at 17?
Fabregas had, first of all, a special vision that you cannot give to anybody anymore. You can give it before 17, at 17, 18, 19, it's done. And as well, Fabregas had a very good assessment of his own performances and was very demanding with himself. When you ask him, what do you think you played yesterday? I was rubbish. You know, it was always very hard. Because the top players have a fair assessment of their performances by being rather harsh with themselves. But as well, knowing that in football, Richard, like in life basically, is that I met so many people, you know, that I came to the conclusion many people arrive to a very good level early in life, and after that they don't move too much. Only a very, very, very few people do go as far as they can, and they do absolutely everything to go as far as they can. And today, you know, I meet players. My first players are 65 now. So they have a look at their life, and I ask always, do you think you could have done better? Believe me, 95% tell me yes.
Do they? Yeah. Are you still travelling, or have you travelled? Are you still learning, or have you learned?
I'm still learning. I think the day I will not try to learn anymore, I will be in a bad shape.
How much of the modern game is in the mind?
Well, I would say the modern game and the ancient game has always been the mind, you know, because the sport is basically to get your body to do what your mind wants, you know. We are more or less gifted for that, but our body just translates what our mind wants. So the game was always in the mind. The only thing that has changed is the mind is quicker now, has to respond quicker, and the body today is stronger and faster and more powerful. But the basics of sport has not changed.
But a generation ago, a player would take to the field and not think too much about what he was going to contribute that day. Nowadays, preparation is everything, isn't it?
Yes, but as well, I would say the danger of the bad preparation is bigger as well. You know,
Well, how do you know whether it's good or bad preparation?
because at the end of the day, the football is rich because the individual initiative on the football pitch plays a vital part. So your preparation has not to inhibit the initiative of a player. It can be for fear or because of the size of the opponent. So there is a kind of preparation today. But sometimes when I look when play and play backwards, I think, oh, this guy doesn't play with enough freedom or enough belief in what he's doing. And so to have to find the right weight in the preparation, the mental preparation and the tactical preparation, not to make sure that the player performs at his best, and that has never changed. So overall, what I discovered when you had 49 games unbeaten, it's 1.5 years, Richard, when you don't lose a game. What I discovered is just that the fear disappeared. The fear to lose, the fear to express yourself, you know, the fear to take the optimal solution when you have the ball. Because if I have the ball, my target is every time to choose the optimal solution. But the optimal solution is the best solution of the solutions I have available. So, and that becomes natural when you have no fear anymore.
But you knew that was possible. You told that group that they could go a whole season unbeaten. Yeah. What gave you that belief?
It was, as you said, I never knew if I do my job as good as a manager can do it. And I put in my mind that the only way to show that I'm a good manager is to play a whole season unbeaten. So
that was the target. Never mind win a European Cup, never mind win the league and defend it successfully.
No, I wanted to win European Cup, Champions League as well. But I thought the championship reflects really the quality of your work and the position, the quality of your team. You know, and I thought that not to lose a game. And today, it taught me a lot about that because this team could have been tactically managed by many managers who would have done as well, certainly. But we did not lose a game because I set the target, you know. And that shows you that sometimes you have to set high targets who look unachievable and to do it. If you don't set the target, we don't do it because you're champions to lose a game. It's mathematics, you know. So sometimes you have not to be scared to set high targets.
Bill Shankly, famously, when asked about his team for a particular match, answered same as last season. They just played, those great Liverpool teams. Did that team that went unbeaten for a season just play?
No.
Second part of that question, what was your pre-match preparation like then? If you remove the fear, you don't want to make them scared,
I heard a lot of things about that were not true, you know. We were organized when we had a balance in the team and we defended well. But the defenders were Lauren, Kolo, Touré, Sol Campbell and Ashley Cole. This defense together had cost. Ashley Cole came from the academy. Sol Campbell came for free. Kolo for £800,000, and Laurent for 3 million or 3.5 million euros. You know, so the defense together has cost nothing. And but there were players, and then we had Gilberto Silva, Vieira. But we were, of course, when what I told you, the fear disappeared because you never lose a game. It doesn't. The fear is a big factor that inhibits players. You know.
But where is the dividing line between fear and preparation? If you sit with a team for a pre-match and start to explain all the strengths of the opposition, surely you fill them full of fear.
Yes.
But you don't want to.
You know, I know many managers in my career, And some of them, when you went out of a meeting room, thought we play against world champions today, you know. And some of them can put that strength and that power in your head that you think you're better than the opponent and that you will beat them.
So just going back to what you said about pride in the achievements that you look back on, going unbeaten for a season would be top of your list.
Of course.
Superseding
You
any...
never go home and you cry, you know, so that's happiness.
How long does it...
No, I think you discovered that you just go to enjoy to watch your team play. You never have that as a manager. You have always fear, you know, and you never know what will happen, so that disappears.
So that was the same for you as it was the team?
Same.
There was no fear in the club?
No.
So my question initially was how much of the game is played in the mind, probably more than is played on a pitch.
As I told you, your mind has to, everything has to be on alert in your head, but in a right balance of being urgency and belief, you know. But your body has to respond to what your mind wants always. So when you have top quality players, they respond better than others.
Do modern day players take enough individual responsibility?
I would say, personally, I would say that once the players who play in the Premier League, certainly, but in the educational level, we have gone from players who were not going through academies at all, and when they came through, they had the character, the strengths on Saturday, to players who go through academies where today the club invests a lot of money. And I would say the balance between support to young players and encouragement for individual initiative has gone too much in favor of support. That is for sure. And we have to rethink today to encourage individual initiative in our education. That is 100%. You see too many players who can predict exactly what they will do in every situation.
So they're coming off a production line, really, that's what you're saying?
They're coming off by being told too much what to do and taking care of everything, you know. And some clubs today come back to basics, you know. We have not to forget that the game is a good coach for the good players, because you have to take initiative and think after, why did I lose this ball? And to find the right solution. And in an analogical situation again, I lost the ball the time before, now I will do something different, you know. That mechanism is very important for the progression of the player.
You once told me that you never spoke to TV post-match without the purpose of addressing your team. What you were saying really was for them to listen to.
Yes.
Thomas,
you speak to your players in the press conference.
Yes, yes. Thomas Tuchel has made a big statement recently, putting a substitute on the field of play, taking him back off, Hudson-Odoi, and then publicly telling everybody why. Did you ever find yourself in that situation, and is that a dangerous strategy?
I defend the fact that he took the player off again, you know, because that has to be possible for the manager. And at the end of the day, it's easier to repair the ego than to repair a result of a game, you know.
Yes, I suppose so.
So that has to be dominant. But to explain why is a bit more sensitive, and personally I haven't done that. Is he right or not? Maybe he felt he was true to himself. I usually didn't do that.
But you wouldn't put yourself in that position and publicly express it?
I don't. I accept the fact that you can take a player off again. He has not the right attitude. You shouldn't lose a game because of that, you know. And he is certainly knows the player better than I do. And but overall, after that, you know, the media wants always more.
Of course. You said when I asked you about Grealish, Foden, and
Madison.
Play them all together. Of course, Gareth Southgate can. Were you ever tempted by that luxury? Were you ever close to saying yes to the offers of taking charge at England?
I played Pires, Henry,
No, never mind that. You know where I'm going with that question. Were you ever tempted by the inquiries for you to take over as the England national team manager?
I was, but I sometimes you're prisoners of word of your statement. I turned down England 2 or 3 times. I don't even remember, but I always thought in England maybe it's natural. It's a football country, and the football country, to me, it makes sense that the manager is English as well, you know, and but it shouldn't work like a club. I like God Save the Queen, but I couldn't sing if I'm on the bench.
Don't you also, after all this time, feel a little bit English?
Yes, of course. You know, I'm still living in England.
I know,
Richard. So, yes, I like England. You know, and I like English people are sometimes ruthless, but some aggressive. But overall, it is a country that is brave, that is ready for a fight, that knows how to enjoy life, where people go out, enjoy themselves. And I like that love for life they have. And I like as well that for a guy like me, they created football. So I have to show some gratitude.
You say we're ruthless. We didn't invent the guillotine. That was the French.
Sorry?
We didn't invent the guillotine. That was the French. That's more ruthless than we are.
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, come on.
Sorry.
You talked about the growth process of a young player, 17 to 20, 20 to 23. When is a player at his maximum? And when should he be aware that if he hasn't won anything, the time is short and that he should be considering perhaps where his best options are?
The player is at his best between 27 and 32, maybe 26, 27 and 32, you know, where he produces, yes, he's there, you know, I'm here, you need me, I'm strong. And when the 3 comes in, they become they all become professional.
Right.
You know, they know, oh, the 3 is a shock in our job, the 3 is a shock.
Right. So at 28 then you would be considered to be really almost at your maximum.
Yes. That's why, Richard, if you look at the teams who win the World Cups, usually the average age is 27, 28, 20, you know. And that's why, because the World Cup is every 4 years, there are very few chances to win it again, because when they go back to the next World Cup, we are 32, 33. That's why maybe we should organize the World Cup every 2 years.
Really? Every 2 years?
Yeah, and the European Championship every 2 years, and kick all the rest out. Organize only competitions of a meaning, and kick all the parallel competitions out of a game. People must understand what is at stake and have only games of a meaning.
Yeah, you slightly distracted me. I want to continue where I was. So at 28 then, if you haven't won anything, have you got a big decision to make about your future?
I don't know where you want to lead me, but...
You do.
But I would
Let me be more specific about this and say, Harry Kane has loved playing for Tottenham, hasn't won anything, is at the peak of his powers.
Yes.
Should he, if he isn't, should he be considering changing lifestyle and football club in order to have success?
Well, I would say that Tottenham is in a position where they can be ambitious, you know, and that we should not maybe judge only the today's situation. Tottenham was top of the league in December. There were a few times top of the league when I was still at Arsenal, but
you don't win anything for being top of the league in December, do you?
That's true. But only he has to, I would say he is the only one who can assess the situation. You feel, you know, I remember Thierry Henry told me, boss, when he went to Barcelona, he said, we have a young team, I know. I'm 31 years of age. I know we cannot win big things anymore because we have not the maturity in the team to win the championship now. Let me go to Barcelona. I'm 31 years old. I have only a few years, and I accept that. You know, at 28, you're still some time.
So if he hasn't been thinking about the future, then now is the time that he should.
I would say certainly a player like that is always solicited by other clubs and always has to assess his situation. I think he was until now a real top leader at Tottenham. He's a top leader in the English national team. I respect highly his commitment and his quality. You know, and what I like today, he could basically play as a number 10 because the quality of his assists and the speed of his vision and the execution of his speed on long balls is exceptional. After that, he, you know, knowing my position at Arsenal and Tottenham being at stake, it's not down to me to make that kind of decision.
Van Persie always said he was a 9.5. Is that what Kane is really?
He started by being completely a 9. He has become a 9.5. Yes, Van Persie was more a 10.5. You know, he was a playmaker and as well a goal scorer. And at the start, when Thierry Henry left, I put him up front, more advanced, and he adapted extremely well because an exceptional technique, Van Persie.
You've had many successes, and we mentioned one today, Fabregas. Theo Walcott was picked up at a very tender age, but there are famous pictures of Harry Kane in an Arsenal jersey.
Well,
how did he escape?
Well, he made the wrong. That's where he made the wrong decision.
Oh, is it really? Were you aware of him? Did you know, or are we blaming Liam Brady?
I know about this story, but he was very young. He was 9 years old, something like that, and his father moved. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was at a very young age.
It's the one that got away, though, isn't it?
You know, the history of every club is full of players you missed and who became top stars. Unfortunately, I would like them all to be under red and white, you know.
Are you done with management, or if the right one came, would you consider it? And international management, is that a motivator still for you?
I don't rule it completely out, but I want really to have an influence on developing the academy, the research center in Zurich, and contribute to put in place what can make football outside Europe, in Europe as well, better. And as well, let's not forget that the women's football knows a boom, and they need as well a lot of support to do that.
Last question. We've got all this way without mentioning VAR. Again, from a conversation.
I can't believe it with you.
Again, from a conversation that we had recently, you were talking about the scars of disappointment remain and can be deep. And you mentioned the French Cup final, Stefan Oncho, with a handball on the line.
Yeah.
You see, you're still angry about it. Yes. Was that the birthplace of VAR in your mind? That incident, not Thierry Henry's playing for France?
Well, Thierry Henry is similar. You know, this is a goal that would have been disallowed. What happens is that when you're inside the game, I see a big difference between people who are inside the game and suffered from defeats. They want more right decisions. We want to know if you lose a game, it is because really.
I get that, but I just wondered when I left you the other day, was that the moment? Because it obviously still deeply annoyed you.
There were many other moments, but I would say having suffered defeats from decisions that were not right, and certainly having benefited as well, what you forget from decisions who were in your favor and were not right, you know, you forget them. But I just would think that it's normal that a society goes for more justice. We live in a period where you want that. Football, I think, football basically during my life has replaced a little bit religion, you know. but it gives football as well a moral responsibility. And we see it more and more, Richard, you know, that weight on the football world to be involved in social decisions has become bigger and bigger. We had examples with Rashford this year, you know, but it's difficult. We grew up with a complete separation between politics and sport. That world has gone. Today, football is part of a society and has a moral responsibility. That's why I think that the job at FIFA is so important to develop football with the right ethics all over the world.
For you, the last 45 minutes has probably been arduous. For me personally, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'd like to think those watching feel the same way. Arsene Wenger, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.